Why did Fletcher Westphal commit to the Florida Gators? He'll tell you himself here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators and another bonus episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. Happy Wednesday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. Please do be sure to like, subscribe, comment, review, all that fun stuff. But without further ado, let me introduce to you the Florida Gators' most recent blue chip offensive tackle commitment, Fletcher Westphal. Joining me now for Locked On Gators is none other than most recent blue chip offensive tackle commit for the Florida Gators, Fletcher Westphal. Fletcher, I appreciate you taking the time today. I did want to ask you, you chose Florida over Arkansas and Clemson when most people and most sites thought you were Clemson bound. What went into you picking the Gators over the competition?
For me, Florida was the everything school to me. They hit on a lot of the boxes that Clemson hit on. They hit on a lot of the boxes that Arkansas had hit on. And it just, since they hit on quite literally everything, and, I like the coaches at Florida. I believe that, they are doing what it takes to bring Florida back to where it was, winning a national championship. I just, boom, that's the short way to explain how I made my decision.
Florida has a very, we'll say, unique situation along their offensive line with two on-field offensive line coaches in Rob Sale and Darnell Stapleton. How much of just their presence led to your decision to commit to Florida?
So, they were definitely the ones, Coach Napier was recruiting, but they were definitely recruiting really hard. But they wouldn't do it to the point where it was like, some coaches kind of back last year before I released my top schools, they would recruit kind of nonstop where it was like, are you even human almost? Right? They, I got my wisdom teeth removed last week, right? Just checking in on me, but they're not sending a text every 3 hours, trying to update, it's real genuine interactions, right? You can tell that they care, and it's just that's just how it is.
Yeah, I feel like we've heard quite a few offensive line recruits come off of visits in Gainesville and say that, they sat down with Coach Sale and Coach Stapleton and they kind of watched their own film and got some feedback. Did you do that with them as well?
Yep.
What was your feedback like, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, a lot of me is I got to use my hands better. I got to be more violent with my hands. Obviously, play lower. I'm a very tall person, so just I can always play lower. And then kind of other than that, we just went over some of the everyday drills that they did at Florida. Those were just some basic things that they gave me that I could work on. Obviously, getting my hands inside, but a lot of the stuff it had to do with using my hands better, more effectively.
Yeah, I feel like for a lot of high school offensive linemen coming to college, that's probably one of the main things you get is hey, you should probably not just beat the crap out of everybody. You probably just be a little more reined in there. But you mentioned, you're obviously a tall, you're gigantic, even by offensive tackle standards. You're very tall. That's mainly the thing. But do you have any, let's say, specific players you watch to improve? When you're watching film, do you specifically look for Colton Miller, Nate Solder, Orlando Brown? Do you specifically look for those tackles who are 6'7", 6'8", and try to go all right, let me try to see what they do and they got to the league?
So my gold standard tackle to watch is Trent Williams, right? he's kind of my gold standard to watch. I mean, I think I have watched hours of his film at my online coach's house. I mean, you just watch him just like, I mean, he's a freak athlete, so some of the stuff, I have to get more fit to even be able to do. And like, but he's a freak of nature. He can do so many things at the tackle position. And so it's just, you can learn so much just from watching his film.
Yeah, I mean, he's the elite of the elite. there's no other. And I hope you know that because you brought up Trent Williams specifically, he does something like probably like 3 or 4 times a year that goes viral where he gets out in space on a screen because of course, why wouldn't he be out in space on a screen with the team? And he just demolishes like a corner or a safety. And it's the funniest thing ever. But I hope you know, because you brought him up, I'm fully hoping to see just a poor DB, which I play DB, so I've been on the receiving end of it. But I'm hoping to see just a DB just get railroaded there.
It might not be a DB, but there will be a skill position player that 30 pounds on top of them.
Yeah, I would really. Now I'm looking forward. Can you like reclassify now and just get in there? Because I'm trying to see that immediately. But when you were on campus in June, Austin Barber was your player host, correct?
Yeah. I spent a lot of time with the younger guys though. But yeah, he was my host.
What was that like to kind of have your player host be the guy that you're likely going to be replacing when he goes on to the next level?
I mean, I think it's, some people might not have the same mindset as me where it's like, hey, most people want to come and play the freshman year, right? I would rather develop my freshman year, right, as much as possible because I'm going into the SEC, right? The SEC is the hardest football league to play in college football, right? You were playing against the best competition. I would rather, obviously you're not sitting back and relaxing, but I would rather sit back, learn how to play in the SEC, right? Get better, get stronger, right? Sit behind one of the best tackles in the SEC, right? And then get coached by some of the best coaches in the SEC, and then, just kind of just put all that work in and then just play. I mean, it's one of those things where I think I could learn a lot more just by focusing on learning, right? Not worrying about playing my freshman year, worrying about, hey, how can I get better so like the entire team can get better as a whole, right?
Take your first swing at betting on the MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times back your first bet up to $200 in bonus bets. So you can bet $20 on Gator legend Pete Alonso or Gator legend Harrison Bader or Gator legend Jonathan India hitting a home run, and either they win and you make money or they lose and you get $200 back in bonus bets. All with an app that's safe, secure, and incredibly easy to use. I love that they added a search feature so I can just search for any player. It makes it so much easier. Sign up today at fanduel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 back in bonus bets. That's fanduel.com/lockedon to learn more. FanDuel is an official partner of Major League Baseball. That is just, I'm now dubbing myself the president of the Fletcher Westphal fan club. So appreciate you. Appreciate that response there. You mentioned that you spent a lot of time with the younger guy. I'm assuming most of it was, did you mean like offensive linemen that are currently on the team?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you spend then a lot of the time, or I guess better way to put it would be, did you get to develop any sort of relationship with those guys? Because I feel like it's often overlooked where offensive linemen, like it's one of those things where like you're only as strong as your weakest link. And a lot of it is, I'm a Giants fan. So when the Giants, before they sucked, when they were winning Super Bowls, it was like they didn't have like the best offensive line men, but as a unit, they were just so good. And I feel like that's one of those things where just that chemistry develops over time. So did you feel like you kind of built a little bit of relationship, or at least started laying the foundation for that one?
Yeah, I think that's definitely partially the reason why I committed to Florida. I had just, I had blended well with the Florida offensive linemen, especially the young guys. Those would be the guys that I'll spend the most time with, at my career there. Austin Barber, I mean, he's a great offensive tackle, a great guy, but, I'll really only see him for about a year, right? And then he's off, right? So, it's those guys that I'll be spending the most time with. And, that was part of my decision too, right? How well I blended with the players at the university. And, I think I blended the best with the players of Florida.
One of your visits to Florida was the South Carolina game,
Yes.
which, I mean, the most dominant complete game performance we saw from the Gators in the entire season last year. What was that experience like in the swamp for you?
It was a little crazy, right? I think one of the things I had said back then is I think Florida has some of the most interactive fans just throughout the stadium, right? I had been to some crazy loud games. It wasn't the loudest game. I was at the Georgia-Tennessee game, which I think was the loudest game in like college football that year, right? Which was crazy. My ears were ringing that game. But like what really stood out is that all the fans were so interactive, right? With all the players, right? All the traditions that are in the swamp, right? And everyone's doing it. I believe the stadium capacity is like 80,000, right?
Stadium capacity is 88,548, right up here.
You got 1,000 people all chomping. They're all singing along, right? I think that was one of the best overall experiences that I've had inside of a football stadium. I mean, it's just, I think it's one of the best overall experiences I've had.
Yeah, I went to the Utah game last year, and for me, that was just like
probably crazy. Oh yeah,
that was the best sports experience I've ever had. Anyway, we know that your plan right now is to be an early enrollee, correct?
Correct.
Do you have any idea yet what you're looking to major in? Because I know that when you committed, you even put out like in your commitment that it was the best place for you athletically, academically. You've talked multiple times about Florida being the everything school for you. So do you know yet what you're planning on majoring in?
Business marketing.
Okay, all right. Business, which is what I went for, which is totally being used properly right now on a podcast. But and you've mentioned, Florida, the everything school for you. Do you have any like specific plans for what you'd want to do outside of football, whether that's while playing or way down the line when you're done playing football?
I mean, kind of just like things that I'm doing right now that I'll like continue to keep on doing. I like to do a lot of things like relating to vets, just people who served our country. That's just something that I kind of believe a lot in. I do a lot of kind of just like charity work, I guess, around here, just volunteering. I think that's something I'll continue to do, just specifically in that area. Not that I won't volunteer in any other things. It's just that I'm more drawn to helping out vets.
And I will ask you this because I know you've been asked this before, but this seems to be the trend with how people wrap up their interviews with you. So it's how I'm going to wrap it up too. Do you have any message for Gator Nation now that you're a Florida Gators commit?
Let's get to work.
All right, let's get to work. Thank you so much, Fletcher. This is Fletcher Westphal, Florida Gators' most recent offensive line commit, and can't wait to get you on campus in January 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Please do remember to be sure to like, subscribe, comment, review. Join the Locked On Gators Discord. Links in the description below. We'll be back tomorrow. We're still talking Gators football, baby. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Line Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33, and I'm going to see you all tomorrow.